Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest naughty stories. It had been a week of relentless work, the kind that left your shoulders stiff, your mind dull, and your patience stretched thin. The office was a glass tower in the middle of the city, every corner gleaming, every surface polished, every window reflecting the chaos outside. He, my boss, Jonathan Hale, was a man of precision and control, his presence commanding without needing to raise his voice. To the world, he was unapproachable, the kind of man who inspired respect and a touch. Of fear in equal measure, to me, he had always been something else, entirely a mystery I wanted to unravel. Even if I knew I shouldn't, I had started at the firm as an assistant 2 years prior. It was supposed to be a simple, professional arrangement, deliver documents, answer calls, manage schedules. But Jonathan had a way of noticing everything. The slight slump of my shoulders when I was tired, the way I laughed a little too quickly at his dry jokes, the quiet diligence in the reports I turned in late at night. He didn't just supervise, he observed. And though he never crossed professional, lines, the intensity of his gaze made me acutely aware of my own heartbeat whenever he was near. That night, it poured. The city was drenched, streets flooded with reflections of neon lights, umbrellas turning inside out, cars moving slowly through rivers of water. I had stayed late to finish a report, my heels soaked, my hair plastered to my face. The office had emptied, save for him. I had assumed he'd left hours ago. But as I gathered my things, I noticed his silhouette in the corner office, curtains drawn but the faint glow of his desk lamp, illuminating the sharp angles of his face. Still, here? His voice startled me, low and smooth, a trace of amusement beneath the usual reserve. I needed to finish the Peterson file, I mumbled, trying not to sound breathless from the run to my car earlier. He stepped into the hall, holding an umbrella that was completely useless in the deluge outside. His coat was dark, tailored, wet. Along the shoulders, his tie slightly loosened. For a moment, he looked vulnerable, human, and I realized I had never truly seen him like this outside the polished walls of the office, outside the barrier of authority. You can't drive in. This, he said, raising an eyebrow. Come with me, I'll take you home. I hesitated, torn between professionalism and the sudden intimacy of the offer. But before I could refuse, he had gestured, insisting, and we stepped into the rain together, water soaking through our clothes. Immediately, we ran across the street, dodging puddles, laughing despite the absurdity, and I noticed his hands, surprisingly warm, brushing against mine as he steadied me over the uneven sidewalk. My heart raced not from the rain, not from the run, but from him. We reached his car, the warmth of the interior a shocking contrast to the storm outside. He handed me a towel without a word, and the brief touch lingered just a fraction too long, a spark igniting where nothing had existed before. His gaze met mine, steady, searching, and I felt as if he could see every thought I'd tried to bury. The admiration, the longing, the quiet fascination that had grown over months. That night, the rain didn't stop. It pattered against the windows of his apartment, a soothing rhythm against the tension that had built between us. He poured wine, and we sat across from each other, the air thick with things unsaid. I tried to focus on trivial conversation, but the proximity, the scent of him, the heat radiating from his body made words meaningless. You're different in the rain, he said finally, voice softer, almost intimate, less guarded. I swallowed, unsure how to respond. Maybe the rain makes us forget rules. He smiled, that rare, full smile that wasn't meant for the office. It softened the stern lines of his face, revealing the man behind the reputation. And then, slowly, deliberately, he reached across the table, brushing my hand. The contact was electric, unspoken, and I knew in that instant that everything had changed. Our first kiss was tentative, almost shy yet fierce in its own way, as if the storm outside had unlocked something inevitable. It wasn't just desire. It was years of suppressed emotion, of shared glances and unnoticed moments culminating in a single explosive connection. That night, we moved past words, past hesitation. We fell into each other with a need that was both frightening and liberating. And I discovered sides of him soft, tender, vulnerable that no one else had ever seen. The days that followed were a delicate dance. We returned to the office, professionals in the light of day, while at night, the apartment became a sanctuary. Every meeting, every report, every mundane interaction became charged with tension, with a secret knowledge that neither of us could speak aloud. Each touch, each stolen moment, was a rebellion, a surrender, a claim of the passion that had ignited in the rain. Our love, though hidden, deepened. It wasn't just physical. It was intimate in ways that transcended the body. We shared stories, fears, regrets. He confided things about his past that no one knew: childhood loneliness, mistakes, heartbreaks, and I offered mine. Our souls intertwined alongside our bodies, creating a bond neither of us had anticipated. Months passed, and the affair became a rhythm of secrecy and longing. We were careful, yet the desire between us was unstoppable. One night, months later, as the rain returned in a sudden summer storm, we found ourselves caught in it again, laughing and running across the balcony of his apartment. Rain soaking through every layer, hearts beating faster than the storm around us. He pulled me close, pressing his forehead to mine. "I've never felt like this with anyone," he admitted, voice raw. "Not like this, with you." I whispered back, my own heart betraying me. "Neither have I." From that night on, passion became the foundation of our secret world. We explored each other with abandon, indulging in the intensity of love that had grown from admiration, desire, and a connection that no one else could comprehend. Every glance in the office carried weight. Every touch outside the apartment was electric. Every shared silence a confession. The years unfolded with both tension and tenderness. We built a rhythm around our affair, balancing desire with discretion, passion with restraint. He became not just my boss, but the man I loved, the one whose presence I craved, whose absence left a hollow ache in my chest. And I became, in his own quiet way, essential to him, a partner in a love that was forbidden yet undeniable. Eventually, the line between infatuation and something deeper solidified. We couldn't live in the shadows forever. Our love demanded recognition, even if only between ourselves. And though the world outside might have judged us, our hearts had already chosen. The night in the rain had not merely ignited passion. It had rewritten the rules, turning an untouchable boss into the man whose soul intertwined with mine, whose love became the center of my existence, whose embrace became my home. The weeks after that night blurred into a strange, intoxicating rhythm. Daylight in the office felt suffocating. The world suddenly mundane and colorless compared to the intensity of our stolen nights. We became masters of discretion, navigating meetings, deadlines, and client dinners while carrying a secret fire that neither of us could extinguish. Every glance across the boardroom table, every accidental touch of our hands reaching for the same report was a jolt, a reminder of the tensions simmering beneath the surface. One evening, Jonathan asked me to stay late again under the pretense of going over quarterly projections. The office was empty except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional tap of his keyboard. I tried to focus on the spreadsheets, but I could feel him behind me, a warmth that wasn't just from proximity, but from the invisible tether connecting us. "Do you ever think about that night?" he asked softly, leaning against my chair. I froze, pencil poised over the paper. "Every day," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. He smiled, a mixture of mischief and something deeper, something vulnerable. "I never imagined I could feel this." "Consumed by someone," he confessed. His hand brushed against mine, lingering longer than it should have, and the air between us seemed to thrum with electricity. I looked up into his eyes and saw the same truth I had been trying to deny. Desire, passion, and love, all wrapped together in a dangerous, beautiful knot. Our nights became more daring, more intense. One rainy evening, He invited me to his penthouse apartment under the guise of working on a presentation. The city was a wet blur below us, neon lights reflecting in puddles like fragmented stars. The moment the door closed behind us, the professional barrier dissolved. His lips found mine, urgent, claiming, desperate. Clothes became irrelevant. The storm outside seemed to fuel the heat between us, wind thrashing against the windows as we moved together with a reckless abandon that left both of us breathless. The intimacy we shared wasn't just physical. Afterward, we would lie tangled, together, tracing the lines of each other's faces, whispering confessions and fears. Jonathan spoke of his childhood, of the loneliness and pressure to succeed, of the masks he had worn to survive. I shared my own secrets, my own vulnerabilities, and in those moments, love deepened beyond desire. Each touch, each word, each stolen glance became an unspoken promise that we belonged to each other, regardless of the outside world. Yet life outside our secret moments continued, indifferent to our passion. The office remained a stage of professionalism, clients and colleagues unaware of the storm brewing behind closed doors. There were moments of near exposure when he entered a room just as I bent to pick up a dropped pen, or when our hands brushed under a meeting table, but we learned to navigate these encounters with a practiced subtlety, a silent acknowledgement of the tension between us. One night, after a particularly grueling week, he surprised me by driving me to a secluded hill overlooking the city. The rain had stopped, leaving the world slick and shining under the streetlights. He held me close, arms tight around my waist, and whispered, "I don't want to hide anymore, not from you, not from myself." I shivered in the cool night air, heart hammering, realizing that this love had grown beyond the confines of secrecy. "I want the same," I breathed. In that moment, the universe seemed to contract, leaving only us, bound by desire and the quiet thrill of rebellion. We kissed. Under the soft glow of city lights, hands exploring with an urgency that carried years of longing. That night, our love became both an act of passion and a declaration, a rebellion against the rules that had tried to confine us. As months turned into a year, our connection deepened. Jonathan and I found small ways to express our love in public. Without revealing the full truth, a lingering hand on a coffee cup, a brief touch of shoulders while discussing files, the warmth of his gaze that made my knees weak. The intensity of our passion grew alongside the intimacy of our hearts. He would leave notes on my desk, brief messages that made my chest ache with longing, and I would respond in kind, hiding them within folders, beneath documents, wherever only he could find them. The seasons changed. Rain returned, summer heat pressed against the city, and autumn brought crisp evenings that we spent wrapped in each other's arms in the quiet of his apartment. Even amid chaos, client crises, deadlines, corporate pressures, our love thrived. An anchor in the storm of life. There were moments of doubt, fleeting fears that what we were doing was unsustainable, impossible, wrong in the eyes of the world. But those moments were brief. The gravity between us was stronger than guilt, stronger than reason. One evening, Jonathan took me to a small, intimate rooftop garden atop his building. Lanterns glowed softly, flowers bloomed in defiance of the urban skyline, and he held me in his arms, his forehead pressed to mine. "I love you," he whispered, a confession carried on the breeze. Not as a boss, not as anyone else, but as the only person I've ever wanted this deeply. Tears filled my eyes, and I clung to him, feeling the truth in his words. "I love you too," I replied, my voice shaking, more than I ever thought I could love anyone. From that night on, our love was no longer hidden by the rain or the office walls. It was fierce, passionate, and unwavering, a sanctuary in a world that demanded restraint. Each day was a dance between desire and discretion. Each night a celebration of intimacy and connection. The years passed, and though challenges arose, temptations, societal expectations, the weight of our professional lives, we endured. Our love matured, becoming a blend of passion, tenderness, and profound understanding. Jonathan and I were no longer just boss and assistant or secret lovers. We were partners, confidants, and the refuge each other's hearts had always sought, even as the world changed. As careers shifted and the city around us evolved, one thing remained constant: the memory of that night in the rain when boundaries dissolved and Jonathan, my unapproachable boss, became the man I loved with every fiber of my being. It was the moment that defined us, the spark that ignited a lifelong flame, and the truth that passion, when intertwined with connection, could transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. The weeks and months that followed that night in the rain felt like living in a dream suspended between reality and desire. Mornings were often unbearable, filled with the memory of his touch and the echo of his voice, making the office feel suffocating in its normalcy. Every shared elevator ride, every accidental brush of hands over files, every whispered instruction carried with it an undercurrent of tension that neither of us could ignore. There was a dangerous electricity in our proximity, a silent acknowledgement that what we shared could ignite at any moment. Jonathan became a study in contradictions, disciplined, commanding, meticulous at work, yet in private utterly unrestrained, vulnerable and fiercely attentive. Our secret rendezvous began to demand more of us. We found hidden corners in the office, small empty meeting rooms where no one would stumble in, and quiet cafes where the world outside didn't exist. Each encounter was an exploration of intimacy, both physical and emotional. His lips traced lines of my skin with the familiarity of someone who had memorized my body and heart, and I responded with equal fervor, learning the contours of his desires, the rhythm of his sighs, the pauses in which he sought reassurance. One night, after a late meeting, he drove me through streets slick with rain. The city lights blurred through the windshield, creating a surreal world of reflections and shadows. He parked on a quiet, deserted street and turned to me, eyes searching, unguarded. "I can't keep pretending anymore," he whispered, hands trembling slightly. "I've tried to contain this, tact professional, to deny it, but I can't. I need you." The way he said it, raw and unshielded, made me tremble. "I need you too," I admitted, my voice breaking, the words tasting like liberation. The world outside ceased to exist as our lips collided, urgency and longing overwhelming any remnants of reason. That night, we let the rain pour over the car windows, the storm outside matching the storm within us. Clothes became irrelevant, and we discovered each other with the desperation of years withheld. Every touch a confession, every sigh a declaration. Days turned into nights, nights into weeks, and our love grew more complex. At work, we moved carefully, using glances and subtle gestures to communicate a secret language that only we understood. He would place his hand briefly on my back as I passed by, linger just a moment too long when handing me a file, or whisper a quiet joke that sent shivers down my spine. Outside of work, our passion erupted in ways both tender and consuming. He would surprise me with flowers at my apartment, leave notes in my bag that spoke of longing and desire, or plan weekends in secluded cottages where time seemed to stop for us. Yet it wasn't all passion. There were moments of doubt, guilt, and fear. Every time someone approached too closely at the office, every time a colleague commented on our closeness, a pang of anxiety would strike. We were dancing on a knife's edge, aware that a single misstep could shatter everything. But the risk only made the moments we shared more precious, the stolen kisses and whispered words more vital. We found comfort in each other's vulnerability, in the confession of fears and the sharing of dreams, and that emotional intimacy deepened the physical connection into something almost sacred. One evening, during a rare quiet night at home, Jonathan held me close, forehead pressed to mine. "I don't just want nights like the rain," he said softly, voice trembling. "I want every day with you. I want to wake up beside you, share meals with you, live a life where we don't have to hide." I traced the line of his jaw with my fingers, heart aching with both love and fear. "I want that too," I whispered. "But the world doesn't make it easy for people like us." He smiled faintly, kissing me with the tenderness of someone both reassured and desperate. "Then we'll make our own world," he said. And so we did, carving out small sanctuaries wherever we could, weekends at remote cabins, nights in hidden rooms of quiet hotels, mornings before dawn in deserted parks. Every stolen moment became an affirmation of our devotion, a rebellion. Against the constraints of circumstance, as the months rolled into a year, our relationship evolved. We celebrated birthdays and anniversaries quietly, inventing our own rituals and traditions. Jonathan taught me to cook dishes I had never attempted, and I would surprise him with small gifts or handwritten notes, each gesture a token of a love that defied reason. We laughed together, cried together, and in every shared experience, our connection deepened. Our love was passionate, yes, but also profoundly emotional. We confided in each other like no one else could understand. He spoke of the pressures of leadership, the isolation of his position, and the constant expectation to be perfect. I shared my fears of inadequacy, my struggles to be seen beyond professional, confidence, my desire to be loved wholly. In these moments, our passion intertwined seamlessly with tenderness, and every embrace became an unspoken promise of commitment and understanding. Even amid chaos, we found rhythm. Business trips became opportunities for secret rendezvous. Lunch breaks turned into fleeting kisses, and quiet evenings into marathons of whispered confessions and lingering touches. Each moment was an assertion of love, an insistence that, despite the boundaries of workplace norms, societal judgment, and personal fear, we were meant to be entwined. Years passed. Our passion remained fiery, but the love matured, becoming a steady current beneath the storm. We moved in together quietly, creating a home that reflected both our personalities, a mix of his meticulousness and my whimsy, every corner infused with memories of our stolen beginnings and the intimacy we cultivated over time. Evenings were spent in shared comfort, reading together, cooking, or simply holding each other in the quiet glow of the city skyline. The rain remained symbolic, a reminder of the night that had changed everything. Even years later, when storms battered the city, we would sit by the window, hands entwined, and recall the first night we had surrendered to the irresistible force between us. That night had been the genesis of a love that was as passionate as it was forbidden, and it had grown into something neither of us could imagine living without. Our love endured challenges, career changes, family expectations, moments of doubt, but each trial strengthened the bond, reinforcing the truth we had discovered under the rain. That passion combined with emotional depth could create something both dangerous and unbreakable. We built a life together, one grounded not just in desire but in mutual respect, trust, and the shared knowledge that we had found in each other a sanctuary the world can never provide. Even as time wore on, and the lines of age began to mark our faces, our love never diminished. Each touch, each look, each whisper carried the memory of that first stormy night, the thrill of discovery and the profound realization that we had transformed from boss and employee into soulmates, lovers and partners for life. And in quiet moments, when the city slept and only the sound of rain on the rooftop could be heard, we would hold each other close, hearts beating in unison, and remember that one fateful night had changed everything. That night had turned a boss into a lover, a fleeting encounter into a lifelong passion, and a forbidden secret into the most beautiful love story either of us had ever known. The months that followed became a delicate dance between desire and discretion, between longing and fear. Every morning at the office felt like stepping onto a tightrope. We moved through the workday with practiced professionalism, exchanging smiles and casual touches that no one else could read. But beneath the surface, every glance, every brush of fingers against fingers was charged with the memory of nights spent tangled in each other's arms. Even a simple handshake could ignite a spark, sending shivers up my spine that lasted until I felt his gaze on me across the room. After work, the world opened up differently. We discovered small cafes tucked into quiet streets, far from prying eyes where we could linger over coffee and stolen glances. Jonathan would brush a stray strand of hair from my face, his hand lingering just long enough to make my heart race. Our conversations were no longer only about work. We shared our childhood dreams, our fears, the parts of ourselves we had hidden from the world. There was an intimacy in that sharing, a vulnerability that made the nights we spent together even more consuming. One evening, rain began to fall just as we left the office. I had my umbrella, but he insisted we walk without it, letting the rain soak our clothes, letting the cold water make us laugh. Our hands found each other instinctively, fingers intertwining, hearts hammering. He pulled me close, and for the first time that night, he kissed me in the open street under the gray sky, letting the rain wash away any lingering doubt. People passed by, indifferent to the scene we had created, but in that moment, the world had shrunk to just the two of us. As weeks turned into months, our connection deepened. We began to find ways to be together even during the day. He would ask me to review documents in an empty office late in the evening, and we would linger there, leaning against the desk, whispering, touching, until the sound of the cleaning crew or the distant city traffic reminded us that we could not remain in that cocoon forever. Each encounter was electric, charged with the knowledge that we were walking a dangerous line. Yet we could not resist. One weekend, we rented a small cabin in the woods, far from the city lights, where the only sounds were the wind in the trees and the occasional hoot of an owl. The moment we entered, he pressed me against the door, his lips finding mine in a kiss that started slow and tender, then became urgent, consuming. The fire in the fireplace cast dancing shadows across the room as we explored each other with a passion that had been simmering for months. Every touch, every sigh, every whispered name became a vow. We belonged to each other, completely and without reservation. The cabin became a sanctuary for us, a place where the world's rules no longer applied. We spent entire days wrapped in each other, talking, laughing, cooking together, and discovering the quiet joys of shared life. The nights were filled with passion, of bodies intertwined and hearts beating as one. It was in these moments that we understood that our connection was more than desire. It was a merging of souls, a love that defied societal norms, professional boundaries, and even reason itself. Even when we returned to the city, the memory of the cabin lingered. It became a reference point, a secret world that only we shared. We began planning little escapes whenever possible, discovering hidden hotels, empty beaches, and quiet countryside retreats. Each time, the anticipation of being alone together made the encounters more intense, more tender, more urgent. Our professional lives continued, but they no longer held the same weight. Jonathan became my anchor, a source of strength and inspiration. He supported my ambitions quietly, encouraging me to pursue projects I had once feared were beyond my reach. I, in turn, became his confidant, the one he could speak to without the pretense required in the boardroom. Our relationship became an ecosystem of trust, passion, and unspoken understanding. There were moments of doubt, of fear, of guilt. We both knew what we were risking, not just professionally, but emotionally. Yet those moments only drew us closer, teaching us patience, care, and a profound respect for the other's boundaries. Every embrace was conscious, every kiss deliberate, and every night together became a sacred ritual, a celebration of a love that had started in secrecy and grown into something indestructible. Over the years, we moved in together, creating a home that reflected the fusion of our lives. It was filled with laughter, art, music, and passion. Each room held memories of nights spent in each other's arms, of whispered dreams and tender reassurances. Our love matured into a rhythm that was both tender and fiery, a balance between desire and devotion. Even the simplest moments carried meaning. A cup of coffee in the morning, fingers brushing while passing a dish, a soft laugh over a shared memory all became expressions of a deep, unspoken bond. We no longer needed to hide our connection. It had become the foundation of our lives. We had transformed from boss and employee into lovers, partners and soulmates, building a life that was entirely our own. Time passed, but our love remained timeless. We celebrated anniversaries, birthdays, and small victories with the same intensity as our first stolen nights. We grew older together, but the fire never waned. Every kiss was infused with the memory of that first night in the rain, Every touch a reminder of the passion that had ignited and refused to die. And even in quiet evenings, when the world outside seemed distant and indifferent, we would hold each other, hearts beating in unison, and remember the night that had changed everything. The rain had not only soaked our clothes, it had drenched us in possibility, in desire, in a love that would endure through every storm. Every challenge, every year that followed, our story became a testament to the power of passion, the resilience of love, and the way two souls, once strangers in a storm, could find in each other a home, a sanctuary, and a fire that no world could extinguish.